Now let's talk about sticking with him. We got a lot of comments from head coach Mike Vrabel at the podium today on Will Levis. I'm going to get a drink here real quick. He was asked, of course, at the top of the press conference, whether or not Will Levis would be the guy going forward for this Titans team, as he very clearly and obviously, I can't tell you how clear and obvious this is, should be. He said, and I quote, here's the question. Mike Vrabel, are you ready to name Will Levis your starter? From our buddy Teresa Walker over at the AP. Teresa asks, are you ready to name him the starter? Vrabel responds, no, I'm not ready to yet. Now that yet is yet. He said, yes, it's doing some work. And frankly, that's a better response from Vrabel, a more optimistic response, promising response from Vrabel than I expected him to give, but he gave it. And I'm hoping that this is just him coyly pushing it until next week for him to announce Will Levis as the starter going forward. Some other comments from him in this press conference on Levis. He said that he's not ready to name Levis the starter yet, but they'll evaluate the depth chart over the weekend. Let the media know on Tuesday. So if they're true to their word, on Tuesday, we will know who the Titans starter is, at least for the Tampa Bay game, if not for the rest of the season. He went on to say that they will base the decision on who gives them the best chance to win, but he understands there are some future implications that they have to consider. He also said about quarterback Will Levis on Thursday, some good plays, some decisions we cannot make. Okay, a lot to unpack here. I'm one of the bigger Vrabel defenders you're going to find, and you're seeing a lot of this take online today, and it's true, so I have to repeat it. Vrabel is a very good coach. I've been a very big fan of what he's done. I think that he's a coach that should not be on the hot seat right now. He's one of the better coaches in the league, and I have faith in him to operate in general, do his job at a high level. That being said, if he goes back to Ryan Tannehill, if he forces Ryan Tannehill back on us, there's nothing I can do about that. Like, there's going to be a lot of calls for his job from a lot of folks that are pissed off at that decision if he makes it, and there's really nothing I'm going to be able to say to push back on that. I'm not saying that he should be fired. I'm not saying that, but I am saying if you were to hear that he's putting Tannehill back out there over a healthy Will Levis and going with the guy that he claims is going to be the best, give the Titans the best chance at winning now, there's going to be folks say that that's a fireable offense. And I'm not going to be able to disagree with that. I'm not saying he's going to. I still have faith that he's not going to, but we had a social clip about this from our Monday show last week or earlier this week, at how this conversation was coming. I figured by the end of this week, we'd be having it, and here we are having it. You could argue it's a fireable offense, and I wouldn't stop you there. That's all I'm going to say about that. If he does it, I don't want to get into, I don't have any words. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to say. It would be so unbelievably crazy and stupid and narrow-minded and short-sighted that I won't really even know how to get into it. And I'm going to refuse to get ahead of myself and be angry about it now. Let's wait, give him the benefit of the doubt, see if he makes the right decision come next week. But he said there at the end, quote, some decisions we cannot make. Will Levis made some good plays, but he made some decisions we cannot make. If that's just a statement of fact and is a review of Levis's performance last night, totally fine. No issue with that. Sure, he had some nice plays. He made some decisions you can't make. That's a rookie quarterback for you. That's a guy in a second ever start on the road on a short week. Sure, absolutely. If that is, however, laying the groundwork to excuse yourself for not continuing to play him, to excuse going back to Ryan Tannehill, to find a way out of having to give him more reps this season and kind of chalk up the year to a fact-finding mission on Will Levis and this roster and see if you can get him jump-started for the 2024 season. It's inexcusable, right? Levis has always been the type of prospect since well before the draft ever came around. And we were scouting him, and I've talked about this. Greg Cosell mentioned this in the pre-draft process, and it's rang true to me ever since. It's absolutely the case that Will Levis is exactly the kind of quarterback prospect that needs to be given the opportunities to learn by making mistakes. He's not a guy that came in and was a highly rated prospect because of his polish coming out of college. It wasn't because he's incredibly accurate or he's incredibly sharp mentally. And this guy, he's well ahead of the average quarterback coming out of college at game comprehension. This guy's going to be a plug and play starter for you day one because he's already at a level closer to his ceiling than most are. And so he's got that NFL pedigree. It was the 5-tool aspect of his physical traits, of his athletic ability, of the flashes that you saw, and that diamond in the rough that you could see in him as a prospect that just needed to be cut down into a beautiful, glorious form, needed to be refined, needed to be polished. That's the kind of prospect he is. And that kind of prospect, like Josh Allen is a very popular, common example, recent example, is the kind of guy that you need to give many, many games to make those mistakes, to learn on the job, to experience a bit of a trial by fire. That's also just the nature of playing rookie quarterback in the NFL. That's an obvious thing to say, but it's worth saying. It's worth mentioning, because this cannot be the reason why you don't play him now. The mistakes are the function of the process, not a flaw. They're a function, not a flaw. You got to let him make them. You got to give him reps to do that. You got to start him the rest of the year. Inexcusable not to. If he's healthy, he has to play. Okay. Before I get to the offensive line and then we get out of here, some comments from you all in the comment section over on Broadway Sports Media's YouTube channel, Broadway Sports Media on YouTube. Join the conversation there. Give us a subscription, subscribe for free, and find this live stream to be a part of the combo. Skylar Hyde saying, to me, the answer to both questions is Levis is best for your future and gives you the best chance to win. And this is a fair point, Skylar, because you could argue this Titans team still has a chance at the playoffs. They could sneak in as a wild card. They could, if the Jaguars fell apart, win the AFC South. Not out of the realm of possibility. They're 3-5. If you win out, you're 11-5. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's harder now because you lost this game, but not impossible. You got some winnable games coming up. You could argue, okay, we got to go with the guy that can give you the best chance to win. I'm not saying Ryan Tannehill isn't better in many elements of the game right now than Will Levis, but uniquely situated for this team, he is not. And Will Levis is, I would argue, again, his ability to navigate the pocket, to extend plays. Ryan Tannehill has been truly one of, if not the worst quarterback in the league this season doing that. And on this team, that's a really, 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 really valuable skill. It's a very vital skill. It's a necessary skill in order for this offense really to operate with any kind of explosiveness, any kind of consistency. We saw Ryan Tannehill and the offense, whenever things got off schedule, the inability for him to make something out of nothing just didn't really exist. He's gotten to that point where he's lost it, right? I don't know how else to say it. Like he's starting to decline, and you can see a massive difference. Now, he looked a lot like Levis does now when he came into the Titans in 2019, 2020. Like those were the flashes we saw from him that made us excited. The quick release, the decisiveness, the aggressiveness, the ability to throw the ball downfield, the sneaky athleticism. That was the MO of Ryan Tannehill. He's kind of lost that with age. Naturally so, not his fault. Well, Levis, young, spry, has the ability to do all those things. So that's why you got to go with him. And you could absolutely argue, Skylar, that Will Levis gives you just as good a chance to win now as Ryan Tannehill does. And of course, long-term for this franchise, Will Levis is the clear and obvious choice to invest your time and energy into.